Hi guys, welcome to Mark Anthony's Music Picks, episode 46. Today I'm going to talk about an era and a genre that I have completely not touched on this channel up until this point, and that is early 90s trance slash chillout. Now, I have to admit, I generally am not a fan of 90s dance music for the most part, especially the late 90s. There's something about that sound that just seems like it hasn't aged well, and it's so 90s that it's almost like it makes fun of itself by how ridiculous and over top some of the sounds were. But the early 90s era, I'm starting to find out, had a lot of really smooth productions in it, and a lot of producers that were maybe coming from other areas of music and bringing in legit musical concepts. And to me, some of this early 90s stuff, especially the ambient, it sounds great even now. So a lot of this episode was prompted by me discovering and listening to the Andrew Weatherall Mellow mix, 1993. Apparently, this Mellow mix was a cassette tape in its original format that Andrew Weatherall recorded, and I don't think it got an official release. Like, you can't find this thing on Discogs and buy it, but somehow maybe it was leaked as like a demo or a promo mix or something along those lines, and somebody took it and put it on YouTube a few years ago. Now, Doombot passed it on to me because he's been listening to a lot of Weatherall sets lately ever since his passing, which is super unfortunate for the musical community that Weatherall passed away this year. But he kind of got me listening to Weatherall sets, and I found this Mellow mix, and I feel like it changed my life. This Andrew Weatherall Mellow mix is... I ended up listening to it on a day where I was already in a really good mood, and it just hit me so hard. It hit me so well that I was like kind of entranced by this, and I started digging through the track list and trying to find out who all these producers are. Most of them I hadn't heard of. Some of them were aliases for producers that I do know. So mixed in with this episode are going to be a few picks that came specifically from the Mellow mix, and then some other picks that I sort of stumbled onto as a result of searching through early 90s music. So without further ado, the first one that I'm going to present to you guys today is this Primitive Painter album. And this was a re-release. This came out in 1993 or 1992 originally. And Primitive Painter is Roman Flugel, who has been making techno and tech house kind of forever. Like, I always kind of picture him the same as DJ Cozy, where it's just like he's been making music forever, and this is just kind of his jam. And you can see here that it's not just about techno and tech house. Here he did an ambient album with another guy who I'm not familiar with. And I have to admit, when I first got this from Juno, I was playing this for like a week and a half straight. Every night I was playing this. So this has like high replayability, and there's some really great tracks on here. The track that I'm going to give you a clip for is called Levitation, which, like the title suggests, is very uplifting and just something you would want to sit and listen to on a day like today, like a nice chill Sunday afternoon. But there's also some other good tracks. Cathedral and what was the other one? Hope is really nice. But honestly, the whole album is really good. I read the reviews on Discogs for this, and people were talking about it as if like it was the best thing ever. And a lot of times I'm really skeptical when I read old reviews, because people tend to get really nostalgic over things and say that X is the greatest album ever, or this is the greatest album ever, because they listened to it as they were growing up. And when I go and listen to the thing that they think is the best thing ever, I'm just like, I don't get it, or I don't like it, or it's like it hasn't aged well. But this is remarkable. So this is still in stock at Juno as of the day of me making this video. So if you want to just drop 25 bucks and get a really nice ambient album, I highly recommend this. And you won't be able to see this on Juno, but I'll show you the inside. It just has a really nice gatefold art. This is awesome. So if, you know, for 25 bucks, I feel like you're really getting your money's worth for this. Next title, shifting gears a little bit, is a remix that I found thanks to my friend Chris Gallagher. He's been DJing forever, and most of his DJing was done out in the early to mid 90s. He accidentally let me stumble onto this. It's a remix of Crowded House, Don't Dream It's Over. Crowded House was an 80s kind of, to me, a one-hit wonder. I don't know any Crowded House songs except for Don't Dream It's Over. And here, this group called Less Stress came and did like a retake of it. And there's this girl, Catherine Wood, who did the vocal, and she re-sings the vocal as a female. And there's really cool drums in it. The drum loop, if you listen to this, is very satisfying. It has like the way that it just like loops and then ends. It's very like pronounced when it ends, and it's just a good loop to listen to. I like to listen to this one in the car. This turned out really well. One thing that's remarkable about this vinyl is how thin it is. I'm gonna try to show you guys. It almost like can't hold itself up under its own weight, how thin it is. I mean, it's like razor thin. But it does sound nice. I'm not knocking the actual sound quality of the record. It sounds nice. And it's also cool because there's other tracks on here with different vocals, but the same beat, which is really interesting. You just don't see that too often. So if you like the drum loop in the sample that I'm going to give you, the same drum loop is more or less used in the other two tracks on this album, but with completely different vocals. So cool concept, love it. And this one's a cheapie. You can get this pretty easy anywhere on Discogs. $5-10 bucks tops. Next track is probably the hardest, and I'm putting that in air quotes, the hardest or most energetic track out of the whole episode. This is Age of Love, Age of Love. Age of Love is considered to be one of the first trance tracks ever, maybe proto-trance or proto-trance techno. Very cool track. I know most people have heard this song, but this is more for maybe some people that are newer to electronic music on my channel, or maybe like a millennial generation that maybe you just missed it. But Age of Love is awesome. It's got a very raw, haunted, kind of dark minor key aesthetic to it. And if you listen to it, I think part of what makes the track so satisfying, besides the creative, like bloopy melody that rides through it, is that the other elements kind of have a call and answer, where there's a rapid fire element that hits high and then it hits low, and then it hits high and it hits low, and that's called call and answer, where it sounds like the two elements are talking to each other or taking turns talking in the track.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
overall, the whole thing just came together with relatively few elements. There's not too much going on in the production of Age of Love other than having good ingredients. So it's like if you have all these good ingredients and you make a cake, of course it's going to taste good. Next up is an artist that I don't know anything about Aphex Twin or Apex Twin. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. But like I just don't mess with warp. I don't mess with abstract. I don't mess with experimental for the most part. It's kind of lost on me. But this is ambient, and it's his Aphex Twin Selected Works 85 to 92. As the title suggests, this was released in 1992, and I guess some of the tracks may have been made as early as 1985, which is mind-blowing because this is another one along like that Primitive Painter that I showed you a few records ago. This one has aged really well too. You get 12 or 13 tracks on here, and the one that I'm going to show you is Aegis Paulus. I don't think that's even a real word. It's this one here, Aegis Paulus. Sounds like some kind of Greek or Latin term, but it's not actually a real word from what I can tell, unless it's actually, I don't know. I tried to look it up and I couldn't find anything about what it means. But there, if you like this track, it has like it has a hip hop kind of bass line to it, and I think the synth that's used in it is a Moog or a Moog. I'm not sure how to say that either, but the Moog has a bass. It's almost like a bassy edge to it as well, and like a hip hop / chill out bass line, and it all comes together really well. Like it hits low. Like this is something you could rock in a car. Like if you had a really nice system, that bass line would hit really nice and deep. The other tracks that are on here, like just on the A side alone, Extile, Tha, and Pulse Width, like just the A side alone is awesome. So like go and sample this on Juno. This is still in stock too, and just listen through. If you like just the first few, you're probably gonna like the whole record. There's only one track that I don't like on here, and it's the one with the 303 acid squeal that kind of just like doesn't. That's the only one I don't like, but like everything else on here is good. So if you're looking for like, you want to spend 25 bucks and get something that you're really going to want to hold on to for a long time, this is where it's at. This is good. A few more to go. This is going to be a bit of a longer episode, guys, but hang in here. I got some really quality picks for you. The next one I'm going to reveal to you is this weird Paul Van Dyke record. This is the only Paul Van Dyke record that I have in my collection because I'm not much of a trancer, but this isn't trance for the most part. I mean, I guess there is a trance mix on the A side, but I don't really like it. This is Don't Imitate, Innovate, and you'll recognize this sample because it's the same one that I use in my intro. I chose this for my intro because it seems to be pretty obscure, and I wanted a laid back kind of vibe to the intro. I didn't want my intro to be over the top, and I wanted something that most people wouldn't have heard before, and this kind of fit the bill for it. The odd thing about this record, there's a lot of odd things. It's this random blue color for no reason that I can discern, and it's released on Hugo Boss's label. So I don't know if you guys know, like Armani Exchange, the clothing line, they used to be kind of famous for their CDs, their mixed CDs that they would sell in the store, like boutique house music, clothes shopping house music that you could listen to. Some of those were good. I guess Hugo Boss was trying to do the same thing and somehow associate themselves with different musical sounds. This here only has 24 owners on Discogs, which is really weird. It's really weird to me that a record that's this good only has 24 owners. And it's also kind of weird that there's only 60-some people that want it. You would think over the years, given the quality of the ambient dub that's on here, which is the version that I like, you would think that it would have become more popular or more desirable. It just seems like people don't know about it. And that is probably because it didn't release on a real label. It released on this clothing line label, and you know, God knows how many were made, maybe 100 or something like that. But anyways, it really goofy presentation. Like, they're trying to promote Hugo Boss's cologne, which is called H2O. I don't even know if that's still around at this point. And just kind of like a goofy aesthetic that doesn't really fit the sound at all. I don't know, but the track itself is awesome. I'm glad it got pressed. The next album that I want to show you guys is one that I discovered again from Andrew Weatherall's Mellow mix that I talked about in the beginning of this episode. And the artist is Dubtribe Sound System. Now, because of my exposure to this in the Andrew Weatherall mix, I went and listened through their catalog. Dubtribe Sound System it's hit or miss for me. There's some tracks, even on like within one record, that I really love track A, and then like track B and C sound like cliched 90s and I don't like them. But this one here is pretty smooth front to back. You get a nice variety of ambient sounds on this. This is Celine Songs. And it's a nice thick plate, and you get 5 tracks on here. The track that I selected out of all of them is Memory Part 1. It's got a nice classic chill out / hip hop beat, like a slowed down hip hop tempo, and it's got some elements played backwards. I think when producers take percussion elements and play them backwards in a track, if that's pulled off well, that can sound really nice. I have some other records that have reverse sounds in them, and it just sounds pretty smooth. This is generally a minimal aesthetic. Even though the track is 12, 13, 14 minutes long, there's not a lot of variation in it, but I do find that I like to just sit and drop the needle on it and go do something around the house and just let it play in the background. It does have progression to it. It's just very subtle and nuanced.
Try to love our boss, we try to love our next door neighbor, we make so much noise, we try to love you. But to try to love is not to love. It's to go through emotions. You can't make yourself love by trying to make. It is becoming yourself. To try is totally barren of the kind of love that is imperative for an enduring relationship. You have to try to love.
Very nice. And there's other more melodic tracks without kicks and not as much bass, like just more on the melodic side on here. But I think this is a good buy for about $10, which is what I paid for it. The next release is by an artist named EBI, E-B-I. And EBI is, it's an alias for Susumu Yokota, if I'm saying that right. It's a Japanese artist that died in 2015, unfortunately, but he was pretty well known for his 1994 album called Zen, which was released on a label called Space Teddy. And Space Teddy was recently re-released here on this record that has a shrimp on the cover. It's so weird. The top says, "My definition of techno house is a shrimp," and then you can see on the cover here there's all the different elements of the sounds, like a snare and a clap, and why that is associated with a shrimp, I have no idea. I can't make any connection to that at all. But there's some really cool tracks on here. Again, this was brought to me by Andrew Weatherall's 93 Mellow mix. Really cool labels. I like the colors on here. The track Chew on here is the one that I'm gonna present to you, Chuu, Chew. And it's very uplifting. And one thing I want to tell you about this track, if you're listening to this on your phone or on your TV, I don't know how you guys listen to these, you're not going to hear the sub bass, but the sub bass, when this comes in the Weatherall mix, it rocks, man. It's one of the hardest like hitting tracks in the Mellow mix. So don't overlook this just thinking it's melodic and soft. It's actually not. It's great. Last record for today is on Apollo, and I believe this is 1994. This is an artist called Squid, S-Q, Squid, yeah. Actually, it's Squid. Originally, it was intended to be spelled with a V where the U is, but I think it was a misprint, and they misprinted it as the squid, like the ocean animal or ocean creature. But the track on here that I love is called Imprisoning Sound on a Piece of Wax. Now, again, super uplifting and satisfying melody and arrangement to the track. And I think this might be the best song in the 1993 Weatherall Mellow mix. It's just so good and so powerful to listen to. And the cool thing about this is, if you wanted to play this in an opening set, nowadays you could still drop this in. Maybe you'd have to pitch it up to +3 or +4, but this would really play nice even now, which is remarkable. I mean, what's that, 26 years old? And here's this track sounding great. I was lucky to get a copy of this that was near mint. I don't know how I got a near mint copy of this. I mean, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong with the version, the vinyl that I got, and I just couldn't believe, you know, because usually when you're buying older records, you know, and somebody says it's VG plus, God knows what's actually going to show up, you know, what's actually going to arrive when you actually look at it under a light, how beat up it's going to be. But this one looks like it was unplayed, so I'm super thankful that I was able to get this. That's all I have for today, guys. I know this was a long episode. Thank you for hanging in. I hope you discover some new artists from this. And definitely check out the Weatherall mix. I'm going to link it below. I'm telling you, if you just need something to chill out to and relax, you're going to love it. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and take care, guys. Peace.